Fornhan.Ponsan, and roll now and become part of the story. Alright then, as we have the perfect opportunity with the Johan Aopon, we will be using this to have a small view into the languages that evolved out of magical language. We have here the vampires with us who use the nameless language that evolved out of magical script. Now, it is nameless due to it being simply language to them. They lived in isolation for so long that language is equivalent to speaking to them. This is quite a unique phenomena, as there are not many magical creatures who live away from humans, and of these are vampires the only ones who have lived perfectly separate. Vampires only came into contact with animals for the majority, and due to their language being so similar to magical language, was contact with magical beings also possible without bigger issues. Their language may differ slightly, but understand you can, problem different speaking not, while the magical beings could focus on the main words being said. But that is enough for the origin, as even in isolation for about 1000 years was it still developed enough at the point where the split happened that it was already fixed in its basic structure. Now, as you already know, is in magical language the order of the sentence giving away the relevance of each individual word. This is a fine way of speaking for low intelligent beings, as what they want to talk about will always never go over 2 nouns and a verb, with maybe 1 adjective per word. I should quickly mention that adjectives are normal magical language exempt from the order of importance, but as it should be easy to identify adjectives from other words due to the nature of words that could hardly be taken its place of noun or verb, should that be easy to handle. But the bigger issue with magical language is that there is no distinction between word types. Words like forobi, made of fort for sky, and amobi for walking can both mean flying and wind or cloud. It is up to us to figure out what it means based on context. This makes it naturally hard to create long but still understandable sentences, as those who use just unmodified magical language are those of lower intelligence level, which they not even have thoughts that would allow long sentences, but with intelligence rises, they need to be more precise. Now, there are 2 types of evolution, the first being those who create a new language and those who modify the existing one. This includes changing of words' meanings or giving them more solidified meanings over the vague use they have for magical language, and even create some new words to fill the needs they have to create better sentences. Vampires are the latter, and they introduce grammar, change word meanings, and even create new words. On top have they added all kinds of changes to how to say words, but I don't think it is me who should be telling this to you. Now, only one of them even speaks our language, and you have to keep in mind that they still live quite isolated, so she will only speak in a broken way. I am always here to help, but I will let her speak as much as possible, so that you can understand it from a native speaker, when we have the ability to do so right now. And I have to say, while I know the rules, I am by no means fluent in vampire language, so I would not be fit to use this otherwise anyways. Olonem hamgu nakhan amobi moe frrgomi. Na kampon fon kagugil moku lumponji kami nimaka nahan. Of course. Pon von olonem frrgomi finfa olonem igon kon kapon fi forhan. Kon kapon orahan nimaka larui. Liroem olonem ojami igon hamu krilm nimaka magon. Gomi han konhan. I name having zara. I krifelnem ology. Oran oloren oloem sa na ki. You are a vampire. Olonem kago kul krilm olonem krifel. Dagon. Vampire krifel kon. I vampire a. Zara my name a. Kool family in. Now, as you can hear, she's speaking somewhat strange, but that is based on how vampires make sentences. As learning words is the easiest part of learning a language, can you hear how she is simply applying our words to their grammar? So let's look at it. Vampires still don't use conjugation, so it is important to know where in the sentence which type of word is. Words have associated types, which also helps, and in the case that a word fills a role it usually isn't associated with, are the words starting with lum, nuk, or full, being verb, noun, and adjective respectively. Was that right? Lum lomgun fuloloaka kon moi nuk gomhan fuloloaka kon? Lomgon fuloloaka olonem igutan kagu? Lum doing word making, nuk sing word making. You lum and nuk and full saying when words changing. Good, then I got it right. What you can also see is these prefixes is a strange case of a thing I for certain do wrong. Vampires also enunciate the first vowel of a word. With this does something strange happen, that O becomes U, when not enunciated. These prefixes would always have the enunciated vowel, but vampires decided that some words should not have any enunciation. These words then always have U as the only vowel. And also R is for vampires not seen as a vowel, like it is for some others, so it is not considered for this talk. Now, what's next is for you to know in what position what part of the sentence is, and for that have we this simple line. Now, sentences can get more complex with special binding words, but the base structure is always like this. The first part of the sentence is a modifier of the sentence. It gives the sentence underlying meaning, like expressing a want by starting a sentence with finfa. Forgetting your place and time missing. First are being sentence place. Second are being sentence time. Finfa gomikusa ology kul pon fon ology fi. Of course. Yes, this is something I like to get wrong. The actually first thing is place or direction. If it is something like this school, that is easy enough to figure out. That is a place. But then could this school also be the noun of the sentence? If there is a chance of confusion, can the place end with gil? After that get we time. And that is as simple as it gets. You just say when something happens or is supposed to happen. Does what you talk about happen in the future or past, or is it simply the here and now? Future, furji, being, furji, igotani, being, after also, ruoji, that being like, only time, sentence beginning at, when are being time amount, it jomi being, only vampire jomi it saying. Jomi, oh yes, Jomi, Jo and Jami, a good king, but for vampires specifically does it mean noble or someone who uses his power without greater gain. Not exactly like altruism, but not far off from that idea. But what Sarah said was that at this second spot we only put specific times. If you want to say something in the past without specific time, would you say either furji or roji after the verb? Before we go further onto that level, let's go on with the next sentence structure. Like I said, first is now, the modifier of the sentence. So your expressions of want, need, change all go here. Now we get to the main part of the sentence. And in the basic sense are sentence structures like this. We have the actor of the sentence, the victim of the action, and the tool. Unlike magical language where a word could be at any position depending on its relevancy, is this far more familiar form of creating sentences for you. Now, turning these fancy words into even familiar ones, is the actor the subject of the sentence, the victim is the object, the action the verb. The tool is what you can already imagine the tool needing to perform the action. This is the genitive case through sentence placement, for those of you who speak languages that include this type of declination. This would now allow you to say simple sentences on the level of a child. Where, when, how, who, to who, in what way, with what. I speak to you would be kun for I, nim akka for speaking, and olonim, nim akka, and olunim, then for you, in the correct order, kun, olonim, nim akka. If you now want to add descriptions, is that pretty easy and consistent. Adjectives or other things used to alter a word are put after the word. As said before, can you use full to ensure that the word is seen as an adjective. But this is how simple sentences are formed. We won't be going over more complex sentences as that. They would need you to know more words like cool. In short, to create bigger sentences, are you taking this idea and then with the help of special words concatenate different sentences? Johan Aopon alui asuji gorul mijaji nui nomina kon kri ponimi kulfil fin fangu ro jami san orahan kun naren nu kuobi igun rajami. Thanking you doing good. Thank you. Now, as we only get this chance once a year, let us use this opportunity a bit more. Where vampires use a language heavily based off the simple magical script we are learning, do we also have with us those who have the most independent developed language? We already went over it, but Werwolf Language, or by them called the Reastoric, is almost completely removed from the influence of magic script. That, however, does not mean you won't feel that it originates from it. But first, let us introduce our guest who can tell us about this language firsthand. Well then, it seems it is time for me to appear on the stage. The other had no interest in this, but they will get their fair share of words to hear about this without my help. Now, how we talk is somewhat old compared to other magical creatures, but overall are the basics still to focus on the important part first. How about you first introduce yourself? We can talk about this afterwards. My name is Helg Farhilf. Now, if we write that out both in your script and our, will you realize that the letter amount is different. We are using a standard alphabet that can be directly translated to yours, and I promise that there are no tricks at play. On that front, let's go through it. Now, the first important part is that we do not share all the same letters, making a one-to-one comparison impossible, but for the most it will work. This is your alphabet. Now trying to fit as many of ours as I can to that, do we have these. Everywhere put a dash, that's where we do not have something to compare. We do not have a C, but what we have is a letter uniquely for your sh and sh. We also have no j sound. Qu follows the same fate, together with w. In general, w is something on the more obscure side of sounds for magical creatures. Many struggle to do it, like you heard from the vampire over there, who had to say vampire instead. Then we finally also not have the V, which for you could be replaced by W or F every time anyways, so it is not a big loss. Those keen ones of you will realize that my name includes one letter not present, under the ones shown there, and the G and F have a circle under it, unlike the ones from the alphabet. The circle can be explained in a simple way. H, where being a sound still used, could be in every instant be cut out by simply shoving the circle of it under the letter following it. This is the only thing in our script that goes under that line, so it doesn't conflict with any letter. The ones this is most dominating ones with is H, Huk, Huf, Huk and Hit, so you will mostly only see them. I think I have heard you humans explaining this letter as an analog for the barking of canine animals. I can neither confirm or deny it if that is where it comes from. I think this is enough about the alphabet. We only have limited time. Yes, indeed, we only have limited time, so let's speed this up a bit by saying that L, U all have their own letter. Some of you speak languages where that is the case. Others would write them as L or Ö. And lastly, F is never used. It is either HIF or the sound is replaced with the other F. It is one of those useless letters we decided on having that is here to stay. While on the other hand, E can never be in the same word as any of L, U. In that case you would write E. Please, this was for certain enough. This is not supposed to be a class teaching the complete use of your language, but only give some insight in it. Yes, I understand. Let's go to the sentence structure first. For this we have two ways. Both are pretty well spread, but the old one gets phased out, as new werewolves are more in contact with humans and adapt your way of structuring sentence more as we are closer to you than most of other magical creatures. The old way, based on magical script, is as follows. Focus, verb, subject, object, tool. With time and space being shifted around depending on need either before the verb or focus. The problem with this is that any of the other parts of the sentence could become the focus, creating strange gaps, so new Werwolf started to completely drop that part, and also started to adapt your subject-verb-object structure. So, how you in the old way figure out what is mostly done through the declination of the noun, base form being the subject. This is now truly going too far. Please refrain from... I put this here just as a reference, I won't be talking about it much. This is now for nouns, but verbs have quite a lot more of conjugations. In total 36. In theory this is however far easier, as for every tense and case there is a dedicated sound and they then get mixed together. Theories aren't always reality, but for the most of it is done by adding up. As you can see, is there also a lot more information in these in just time. We can in a singular verb conjugation put the information that we would have wanted for something to have happened but no longer do so. In reality only people like Verhoek are using past and future perfect forms. They just sound fancy and are mostly used by people who want to sound impressive. By the way, all of these theoretically also are words on their own, representing whatever case they are on their own. Sie means do, and tehet means it will come or happen. But all of this on its own is pretty useless, so let's get to making some sentences. Let's say you want to communicate what your name is, to someone who really refuses to understand you saying it in another language. It is your name, which is the possessive form of Sumehi, becoming Sumehi, and Korhit for your first name. And it is the subject of the sentence, so no declination for this one. But if you would, possessive form words get declinated with the word they are bound to. So you would in such a case declinate both mine and name. Next in line B, which is Olohim. But for names you have to distinguish between first and family names. Tonaya Hicks is almost more of a stating on where you stand in society, your class if you may want to. That means if you say your family name, you would say that you are a part of that class, which is Konami. As we assume that the name itself is the important part, would that come first? You would say Hehik Sumehi Korhit Olohim. Well, with the exception that you don't really need to say Olohim. Just saying name Sumehi Korhit is enough. And the next sentence you will need is Riastuhuk leg fihuch tamre karhen Sumehi. Nuhe naf damvet na gudet Sumehi dohuk luhuk hifnu yerjehe. Now, you already know that Riastuhuk is our language. Fihuch is not, and Tamreho is learning, while Sumehi once again is I, but we say Hutamre Karhen, which is past perfect indicative potentialis. Past perfect is something that has been completed in the past. Indicative is just a normal form of a verb. And potentialis can in some cases be used as a polite form. The second half is just meaning something in the direction of that the others need to speak your language. Well, thank you, Helg. Well, I did not intend to go this deep in it, should you now see just how different Reastoic is compared to magical language. There are other languages based on magical language that also have conjugation, but none as complex as werewolves do it. This is not about the amount they have, but the complexity it brings to their language. No other magic society has a language that can express itself this well. But don't think because of that other magic societies can't express complex ideas. They simply do this in other ways. This world is made by you. Comment on what should be part of it, or maybe there's already a class for that. I also have to wonder what the off class might be up to right now.